hope your day has started off well. My name is Sandra Schnurl, and I send you greetings from Vancouver, where I have the great fortune to live, learn, work, and play on the traditional, unceded, ancestral lands of the Musqueam people. I've been asked today by the good folks BCCIE to have a little café clutch, or otherwise known as a coffee chat with you. I'm a long-time international education practitioner turned researcher who recently defended my dissertation looking at the intersections between education and immigration policy. And I am thankful for the opportunity to share some of the things I've been thinking about in terms of what I see as an increasingly intertwined education-immigration nexus here in Canada. So first off, there's some things I'm going to guess you already know. I'm going to guess that you know that Canada has seen a sustained and significant increase in the number of international student enrollments since 2008, right up until the beginning of 2020, which of course was the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. You probably also know that the percentage of international students who have the intention to study, stay, and then work, or stay and immigrate to Canada at the conclusion of their studies has also increased to 60%, according to the Canadian Bureau of International Education's International Student Survey. And even if you didn't know, you would probably not be surprised to hear that the number of international student graduates applying for postgraduate work permit has also seen a steady increase. And this makes sense because the number of international students has increased, so with the postgraduate work permit applications. But did you know that the postgraduate work permit represents 35% of all temporary work permits issued in 2019? That's a lot. When you combine study permits that have been issued, which remember carry work authorization, of course, along with postgraduate work permits, that number combined exceeds all other temporary foreign work permits issued in Canada. This means that the majority of temporary foreign workers have come through the Canadian education sector at some point. Wow. But that's not all. Did you know that those that held a postgraduate work permit or a study permit who transitioned to permanent residence in 2019 represented close to 40% of all temporary foreign worker transitions to permanent residence? And by the way, that number actually slightly increased in 2020. And maybe you're thinking, okay, Sandra, that's fine. But how many people receiving permanent residence in Canada actually came from this pool of temporary foreign workers? How big can it be? Well, in 2019, it was 30% of all permanent residents. And in 2020, again, the result of the pandemic and the resulting border closures, that increased to 35%. But even if we just say 30%, that means, if I've done my math correctly, you have 40% of all temporary foreign workers, and it's 30% of all permanent residents. That gets calculated into 11% of all immigrant transitions to permanent residence across all categories came through our educational institutions. And in 2020, that was closer to 15%. Now, I know those are a lot of numbers to be thrown at all at once, but the bottom line is that if you've not been thinking about international education or your practice in terms of your role in shaping immigration in this country, I would argue that perhaps you should be. So here are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Our admissions process. Educational institutions through the admissions process have become de facto gatekeepers for accessing the Canadian labor market on a temporary basis for sure, but even increasingly to more permanent immigration. What does that mean? Those with the ability to pay gain access. Those countries with special student visa processing agreements get preferred access. We are not even thinking about this in those terms at the moment, but that link and the outcomes, they're already playing themselves out. Is there an inherent conflict of interest if, as institutions, we get to select who and how many and what programs, and also financially benefit from international student enrollments? I question if the federal and provincial governments are so keen to have incoming international students as immigrants. Why the high price of entry in terms of tuition and training costs? I suppose it's a great deal if you can get it, but somehow, given its impact, it's not resting quite so easy with me. There is most certainly a price that is being paid at the moment, and education institutions are some of the key ones that are collecting. The access to Canada's labor market and immigration pathways through our educational institutions is uncapped. It's an uncapped program, meaning as many international students as institutions are willing to take who meet the admissions criteria and the study permit criteria gain access. What are the implications of this uncapped nature of this particular stream? What does that mean? Universities and colleges in particular, they're not just gatekeepers. They've also become hubs for the settlement of new immigrants. This is new. Thinking about this in this way is new. I would argue these critical transitions don't happen necessarily naturally or automatically for many, many international students hopeful to make those transitions. Many institutions also do not have expertise in thinking about their settlement role. They think about the transition to student, but not their settlement role. I think we need to contemplate that this and different institutions will have to do this differently, but by building either capacity internally or start partnering with local settlement agencies to navigate and even ensure possibly a type of handoff so there is support when it is most needed. I think these issues will become more and more salient as time progresses. Education and immigration have never been more interconnected or intertwined. Our recruitment activities collectively have an immense impact on who lives, works, and becomes a Canadian. Perhaps it's time to be more mindful of that. Thanks for listening. Keep up the good work.